Welcome to the Germinate Podcast, where agriculture, business, and innovation take root and thrive. I'm Joe Sampson, and with nearly 2 decades of experience in agricultural equipment and scaling businesses, I'm here to bring you actionable insights, inspiring stories, and strategic advice. Whether you're an industry veteran or just starting out, this podcast is your guide to cultivating ideas, expanding your knowledge, and growing your venture. So let's get started and germinate your path to success. How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the Germinate Podcast. Today we have, the power of LinkedIn yet again brought this next guest and I together. Katie Hall with the Iowa Soybean Association. Katie, you are the Senior Director of Advocacy at the Iowa Soybean Association. We were just talking a little bit. Let's hear, when somebody asks you that, what do you tell them that you do for the Iowa Soybean Association?
Yeah. Well, what's my elevator pitch, right?
There you go. Let's do it.
Well, of course. Hey, I work really closely with farmers in Iowa to identify issues and work proactively to address them and fix them. So I really view my role as part translator, part connector, trying to find the right pieces to solve those issues that they're having.
Nice. I love it. And you have kind of a farm background, right? Tell everybody about your background.
Yeah. So I'm one of 7 kids. I'm number 6. I joke that good things happen at 6 kids, although we don't have 6 ourselves. So
Are you the final? You're the 6th? Or you're...
No, I'm 6 of 7.
You're 6 of 7. Yeah. Okay. So what do you call yourself? Are you a middle child? Are you...
I'm a non-traditional first child because my next oldest sister is 8 or 9, almost 9 years older than me.
Okay.
And so there's enough of a gap that I'm kind of a first child. But I was treated more like a youngest child.
Yep.
My parents were in their 40s when they had us. And so, things were maybe a little more relaxed in some areas than my elder siblings experienced. So
right. You didn't have a curfew. You could come home whenever you wanted. And
I maybe stopped calling and tattling on myself.
Yeah, exactly.
My parents still don't know, so they won't be watching.
There you go. Well, yeah, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. I was the youngest child too. So my unfortunately, I have 2 older sisters and they got the brunt. I think my oldest sister had to be home at like 6:30. I'm kidding. Yeah. But then my middle sister, it was like, okay, we'll let Lisa stay out till about 10. And then me, it was like, we have no idea where he's at. Nobody cares. Just come home whenever you want.
Right. Nothing good happens after 6:30 p.m., they say.
Is that what it is? Yeah, 6. No, I'm kidding. My older sister, she was the trouble child. She was the one that got in trouble. So we could I appreciate that. So thank you, Shauna, for letting us do that. Anyway, I digressed. Your background. Keep going.
Yeah.
One of 6.
So, 1 of 7, number 6.
1 of 7.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Grew up on a farm. We had pigs when I was really little, but I grew up showing cattle. That was something that was really near and dear to my maternal grandfather's heart, my mom as well. And so that was kind of a big deal for us. But row crop farm, my parents tried a lot of different things. We had organic popcorn a couple of years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, really trying different things and checking new things out. They still do a few odds and ends here and there. Mom's done like organic oats, although most of the farm ground is conventional corn and soybeans rotation. So still have cattle, but this might be the last year of that. So.
Okay. So in this farm's in Iowa?
It's in Iowa, western central Iowa. I was born in Harlan, which more people know. But I grew up and went to school in a little town called Manila.
Manila. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Is that a consolidated school?
It is now. When I was in 2nd grade, it consolidated into IKM, Irwin Kirkman, Manila. Okay. And then in 2008, it consolidated with Manning.
Nice.
So, yeah.
For those listeners that don't know, Iowa is filled with consolidated schools because we have a lot of these small farm towns that, might have maybe 100 people in them, something like that.
Yeah. I graduated with like 35 or 36 kids. So,
oh, wow. 30. Oh, wow. That's even, okay. Nice.
Really small.
So they consolidate these schools together, and it's typically like the name of the town with the name of the other town with the name of it. Sometimes there's 4 or 5. So I grew up in the big city of Des Moines, so we would always have like these fun little games we'd play, like, okay, who can name the most consolidated schools in Iowa? And yeah, silly little digression again, but there's some good ones out there. Google them if you want to. So
there's some really good ones.
Right. So grew up on the farm, making organic popcorn. That's awesome.
Oh, I was going to say, that sounds like a really big deal to us, but it was kind of a blip on the radar. It was just, as a kid, that really stood out to me, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Why not try something different?
Yeah. So what was do you remember your first like job that you did on the farm? What was that?
Walking soybeans.
Oh yeah.
We walked a lot of soybeans, and I got paid well at the time. I think it was $7 an hour, which was much greater than that's a ton
huge.
of money.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. My dad's always been really fair about that sort of stuff. You put the work in, you get paid for it. And so, even as a kid, I'm not sure I was the greatest, employee.
Yeah.
But I'd get up with the crew and we'd all go out and, do it. And then, I mean, I still remember my sister, the one that was 8, she's 8 years older than me. I was asking her how to put a bean hook in the ground. And she said, well, you just step on it, right? And she wasn't looking at my, shoes, and I had rain boots on.
Sure.
And I just stepped on it. Well, the hook went through the rain boots, right into my foot. I got that day off.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. They were generous to you. Yeah, yeah, nice.
Right. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was enough that it was like, okay, let's think before we do something.
Right.
And, that was a really good learning experience. That's probably one of the most memorable moments. We go out pretty early in the morning just to avoid the heat. The heat was pretty crazy at times, but, my family was pretty simple about that sort of stuff. It's too hot to work. We go take a break. We had like window air conditioners through high school. We,
the kids today have it easy. And it's funny, we were talking about the weather because we're recording this on June 26th, and it's like crazy hot here in Iowa right now. It's like 100 degrees. Yeah. Humid, hot. I think it's hot everywhere, to be honest, but it's hot, super hot here. We're kind of used to it in June, late June, early July in Iowa, but yeah, walking beans and detasseling corn in the heat. That was a real job back in those days. It was not fun.
No doubt. I had friends that detasseled, and I looked at it one summer, and Dad's like, well, kind of need your help here. But
good money. You get paid really good money to do that.
Those crews worked hard, and they worked all day. So it was a better deal for me to work at the home farm and try to help out.
Yeah, you cut your arms all up, and you'd be hot and sweaty and dirty, and dirt would get in the little cuts. And then, I think they were like, you'd start at like 5 a.m. or something stupid like that and go all day long. But it was really good money. Yeah. So kids today, watch yourself. You might have to go do those jobs again. I love it. But that's some real work ethic. I mean, and it's valuable, I think, in today's day and age. So what part of that do you think you still carry with you today, and kind of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis today?
Yeah, I was actually talking with a friend of mine about this, and she uses kind of the mantra, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And my parents never really called it that, but that was the mentality, we were put through in general. So it's like, hey, you don't know how to do something, jump in and figure it out. You're unsure how something works, ask questions. If you don't know and you're scared to ask a question, somebody else probably doesn't know. And so throughout my career, I've said, and I've probably said it to you before, but I'm not the smartest. But what I do differently is I ask more questions. And, at times that might be like kind of annoying to people to slow down. But, when you don't know something, sometimes your questions spur like additional thought. Hey, does it actually make sense that we're still doing this? Or should we be thinking about it differently? And I've taken that through my career. I've taken that into like having kids. And my boys are pretty good in that, like today, my 8-year-old got ready for school on his own. He knew he was going to the pool, and he was going to um, going to like a trampoline park. So he got the right socks together. He got his pool towel. Like our expectations aren't crazy, but they are that once you're old enough to manage things on your own, that's the expectation. And, it's awesome to see it come together. It's awesome to see, the kids learn from that. Like, hey, let's clean up after dinner. We're going to do this together as a family because my expectations are that you're a helpful little human and that you can think forward a little bit.
I love that.
So it'll be, thank you. No, it's something that my parents expected of us. I mean, we're really spread out. There's 22 years difference between the oldest and the youngest, but there was always this expectation to take care of yourself, help take care of others, be thoughtful if you can simplify something for the next person.
Well, this is going to sound terrible, but I think it's probably, this is, back in the day, this is before our, your time, and you're much younger than me, but even back before my time, like our parents' generation, grandparents' generation, I hate to say this, but they were having kids they needed help. They needed help on the farm. They needed help to work. And it sounds bad.
Yeah.
It sounds really bad, but that's the way it was. And kids learned from a very, very young age, like, I got to go to work at 7, 8, 9 years old. And we've lost that. And so that's awesome that you're bringing that back. And I'd say we tried to do that with our kids too. They're older now. Like my daughter's going to be a senior in high school, but I have faith in this generation of kids. They're doing things that I see are sort of old fashioned again. And it's refreshing and rejuvenating. And, kids get a really bad rap in today's world, TikTok and Snapchat and blah, 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 all the other crap out there. And so, that's awesome that your kids are, hey, we're done eating, pick up your plate, put it in the dishwasher.
Yeah. And it's important too to remember, like, kids are young, they're going to have fun. I know sports has been a huge conversation, right? Like how aggressive people are with their schedules and that sort of thing. And try to just keep in mind, like, they need some time to be kids. They need some time to dink around.
Yeah. Well, and you said something super intelligent too, to kind of digress a little bit. You were like, I'm not the most intelligent person in the room, but I know how to find and ask questions. And I think that is a sign of intelligence. Yeah, I think it is.
The recognition that you're not intelligent.
Right. All right. I'm the exact same way. I know that when I walk into a room, most people in there are going to be way smarter than me, but I also am interested in people's stories. So it's, I like to ask questions, and nothing's worse when you get in a conversation with somebody and they just talk at you for an hour and a half on something that they Googled or Chat GPT. And you're like, that's not you.
What are you passionate about?
Right, right. What's your purpose? What are you here for? What are you doing? Ask me a question,
No doubt.
I love that.
Have you done the Clifton Strengths Finder?
No. What is that? Tell me what that is.
Interesting. When I was kind of in this path to like figure out who I am, who I was, it was a moment of, do I want to go back into trading from this startup world, or do I want to find something different? And so I took the Clifton Strengths Finder exam or quiz. It's not an exam, but it's a quiz, and you do some reading along the way. And one of my 5 strengths is individualization. And just like going through that really helped me articulate what I have known, what strengths I've known, right? Like, okay, I know that I'm good at understanding, what people care about and what they like, and having these individual relationships. But they kind of laid it out in there. And some of the others are like competition, self-assured, which is really funny to me because it sounds a little conceited, but I had somebody once years ago approach me about a position, and they said, hey, we think you'd be great. I was like, I appreciate that very much, but I know 5 other people that could take this the direction you'd like to take it. I'd be happy to make the introduction. I don't have the skills to do that. And this particular person suggested that I should have more confidence. I kind of laughed. I said, well, nobody's ever said that to me. I'm pretty confident in what I don't know, and this wouldn't be a fit. But respectfully
It's
decline.
funny how you hang on those past kind of situations that come up in life, right?
Oh yeah. And you replay them 10 different ways, and you think about like, these different paths. You remember those choose your own adventure books where you like choose a path, and then you're like, what about this other path that I, maybe said no to in the previous roles. I am a firm believer that, you end up where you're supposed to be. And sometimes even without massive amounts of planning, you can sort it out if you just have the like gumption, the old school word, right? Just have the gumption to like step up and try something different, be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I call it grit too. Determination. It's
Absolutely.
It's sort of rare these days, but you totally know when people have it. It exudes from them. It's almost like they're sweating it out of their pores.
Yeah. They're willing to figure it out. Yeah.
I love the word you said. I'm going to look this up too. Clifton Strengths Finder. Is that what you said? Okay, I'll look that up. And you were an individualization. Is that the word?
Yeah, individualization.
Love that word.
Yeah, you might be too.
You never know. I don't know. I've taken a few of those things, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I could be kind of unique and different depending upon how much sleep I got the night before. Did I get a good workout in, or did I have a did our kids come in and they were struggling with something? Life is so funny that way. It throws stuff at you, and I think part of it is you got to be vulnerable enough to kind of understand that. So that's what podcasting and setting yourself up out there and doing all this stuff. I mean, you have no choice but to be vulnerable. So people come at you all the time and be like, "You suck, man," and that was ridiculous. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't really care. You try it. You tell me you tell me how easy it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I also feel like, in this world, it's much easier to be angry or to tell somebody they suck than to actually try something different or difficult. Right. Even when I made the change so I spent about 10 years in logistics and trading, worked for companies like Walmart and ADM, and then made a total career shift into government relations. And I had so many people that were like, wow,
what are you doing? Yeah.
That's interesting. Right. Tell me more. Right. And you're like, oh, right. Is this a friend or foe conversation? And really most of it came from a good place, but a lot of people didn't see what I saw. And what I saw is that, in trading, you live in a space where, you're constantly consuming information. You're working with farmers. You're trying to understand how to help them, meet or exceed break-even prices, right? Like, how do we get you to a position where you're going to be sustainable long-term? I felt that pressure, daily, where it's like, okay, let's talk through the details. Let's make sure, we're in a good space where you can deliver these bushels on time. And then, maybe your trucking company is running loads for me to Missouri, or picking up, at the time it was coal in Nebraska. And, it's that holistic thought process. Well, I sat down and I reached out to a friend of mine. So at one point I just was like, I need to at LinkedIn, on LinkedIn at the time, the big deal was like, expand your networks, build new relationships. Mm-hmm. And so I joined like an advertising group. I thought, this is kind of interesting. Maybe I'll build some new connections, and maybe this will take me a different route. And I remember sitting in this room, this hotel, conference room, and this woman who was very technically adept was just like talking about the emotions and the feelings of different shades of blue. And I was like, I am in the wrong room.
What? Yeah.
This is not
what
me.
Do we, huh?
And people were like riveted, like, oh yes, light blue makes me feel. And I'm like, I need to go.
I'm out of here. Yeah, this is
I know there is.
I got you.
Yeah, and I know there's some facts and data behind like different colors meaning different things, or bringing forward different pieces of like credibility, and but I'm like, that's not what I'm here for, and so it was maybe like an oversimplification of my mind, like this isn't for me, really. But I thought, I already have a really vast, broad network, right? Through college, through high school, through working at Pizza Hut, through Walking Beans, through whatever experience I've already had. I reached out to a couple of friends who had thought differently, who had gone from career paths where people had said, that's really odd. And reached out to those friends. And one of them said to me, have you ever considered lobbying? And I said, oh, hell no.
Right. Not a chance.
No.
Yeah, no chance. Yeah.
And so really kind of followed a non-traditional path into the lobbying world, with business background and experience. And then, shortly after that, he put me in contact with the Cooperative Association in Iowa. And I spent almost 4 years there and got to work with all different types of cooperatives and farmers. And, it really felt like it was impactful. And what I was seeking was not necessarily a change in like the information gathering, in, utilizing your intuition and your gut, your instincts, building that expertise. But what I was seeking was something that was more proactive, rather than being a price taker, if you will. I could be a price maker, and I could change things really in a bigger way, hopefully. Obviously, like legislation and being proactive takes a lot of time as well. But that was my one of my key motivators, just give me the opportunity to be proactive and fix something, rather than sit here and say, this all seems kind of messed up. And, it really started with a trucking conversation. Like, oh, these permits are really weird. And state to state, it's different, even on the interstates. Reached out at one point to a woman in the permit world who's amazing. Her name's Angie. I don't know if she's a listener. She might be now. So
there you go. You better be listening, Angie.
Angie's great. Anyway, she really helped me identify, which states have really weird kind of niche laws, and were there opportunities then to create some opportunities to create some parity across states. And in some cases, it's like there isn't an opportunity today, but the right opportunity looks like this, right? So we have X, Y, and Z lined up, and that's when we make the ask, and that's when we pull a coalition together. That's when we, translate for the people that don't know in the trucking industry, and then connect all of those different pieces, so that we can make something different happen. And
I mean, that's the definition of advocacy right there. Right. That's exactly what a role like yours entails. And you said something earlier about being impactful. And I think I do consulting. That's where I get that's my day job. And, I always lead with what is impactful, what is purposeful in your company, where you do it without getting paid a dime.
Yeah.
Because in reality, no one can ever make enough money.
Really?
I mean, we think we want, if I could just if I can make $10 an hour, and then it's like, I want to make $100,000 a year. I want to make $1 million. I want to be, I want to have the kind of money. There's never enough.
Yeah.
So eventually you've got to get down to whatever it is you're doing is this impacting not only me, but somebody else? Am I doing things to serve other? I believe Elon says, be as useful to everybody as you possibly can in the world.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And that's exactly what you just described.
Well, and I think too, like, for maybe 2 years, 2 sessions, 2.5 sessions, 2.5 years, I worked and helped another gentleman that's a lobbyist on multi-client work.
Okay.
You're okay. I love making those connections, but I found out very quickly that there were issues that I could not fake caring about. And, when it comes to agriculture, I see all of the touch points. I see all of the opportunities. That gets me really excited to make a difference. Outside of agriculture, not so much. Like I can't be paid to care, right? Like,
right.
At some point you have to, your internal compass has to align with the mission and the vision of the company that you work for. And I've been really fortunate to have experienced that. In my last 2-3, in most of the positions I've been.
Basically all the roles. Yeah. So how long have you been with the Iowa Soybean Association?
I started February 27th on a Thursday.
So super new.
Yeah, like 120 days tomorrow or something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Nice. Yeah. Nice. You talked a little bit about that role, but like the shipping logistics opportunity there, where it's like let's try to make things easier on the growers out there, and that's really the role, I'm guessing. Does it involve a lot of collaboration and synergies with other states, I'm assuming?
Yeah, and yes. And so at soybean, specifically, we have a lot of different opportunities to connect with other states. Really what I look at too is, referencing again, like I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the first one to come up with ideas. We can take and look at legislation in other states and then Iowanize it, right? Like what is another state doing that really supports their farmers? Things that we're looking at, in the next 5 years is more of this generational turnover, right? We have an aging farming population. What does that look like? Do they have people to step in? I know there are existing systems already to help with some of those transfers, even in non-traditional ways, but going through farm succession planning with my family years ago, actually with Iowa Soybeans help, it was fascinating to talk through it because I had siblings who didn't really grow up on the farm. My parents moved to the farm in 88. And so I had siblings who were in college, right? They grew up in Harlan, and they maybe didn't feel exactly as connected as some of the younger ones did. And so it was just interesting to hear what they thought they would want to do, and when we started talking about it, it's like, is the goal to keep the farm together, or is the goal for each person to run it with autonomy, And so those were kind of difficult conversations. And, at the end of the day, my dad said something I thought that was really novel. He said, well, when I pass away, if anybody's unhappy, they can be unhappy with me because this is my decision. Nice. And so, we talked a lot about what's fair is not always equitable. Right. And so, or vice versa, even, right. It's like, there has to be some consideration for, I've got 2 brothers who stayed home. They both have additional careers. One has hog barns and helps some and has some hunting dogs. And then another one sells seed and works kind of on the agronomy side of things. And so, they've lived
different careers, but still in agriculture, obviously. Yes. So it's in them. It's in them. Yeah.
And, like growing up, my dad had always said to us, and probably more to me than to my brother, but like, don't plan to come back. Like, it's not a big enough farm that we can come back and raise 7 families here in addition to your mom and I. And so, that my plan was never agriculture. I studied economics and logistics, and I got an economics degree in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences because there wasn't a business economics at the time. Okay. And so I was going to graduate with an economics degree. My dad's like, you haven't had any business classes. What are you going to do with that? I was like, well, I don't know. Something fun.
I'm going to be an economist. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. And then I went to the dean of education and said, hey, maybe I should be a math teacher. I really love math. And he sat me down very quickly and said, if you left today with an economics degree, the average salary is $46,000. This is like 2008. Would have been 2007. And so he said, if you left today with an education degree, it'd be $36,000. But to get your education degree, you need 2 more years, of course.
Yep.
And so he was, I think he was reiterating some of the things that my dad would have been saying, like, is your heart in this? Do you want to be an educator? Or, is it something more than that? And for me, I loved economics, and I thought like logistics was kind of novel at the time. There were 2 tracks, logistics or operations. And I asked my economics professor, which business degree has the most math? And he said, well, finance, accounting, logistics, I think probably in that order. And I said, well, I took my preliminary finance class. That was kind of boring. Same with accounting. It's a lot of terminology. The people that get revved up about accounting terminology are like their unique beasts.
Go get them, friends. Go get them. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Yeah.
I won't fault you for that.
No,
That's okay.
hey, look,
No, I'm kidding. Everybody that listens to this is Iowa State people. I'm a Hawkeye, but whatever.
oh, we all make bad decisions at one point or another.
Exactly.
But
So, okay, keep going. Yeah.
So anyway, I'd taken some basic courses and decided like finance and accounting maybe weren't it, but I hadn't explored logistics yet. And so I got into logistics and I had a couple of great professors. Professor Montalban was one of the best. And he was, he just like, he had high expectations. I found that when I had challenging teachers, I did the best in those classes because
they change your life in a strange way.
No
right?
doubt. Yeah. And so, for me, it was very clear, like, logistics is where I need to be. I'm interested in this. The courses are challenging. And, it's really, I think of 2 courses specifically. And the teams and the classes and the students in those classes were really motivated. And then I started my career with Walmart Logistics. And, the plan was always like, hey, maybe I'll end up in China. And that obviously didn't happen. I moved around a little bit with Walmart, but I went from Illinois to Maine. So I joke that I went east-ish. Okay. So,
that's kind of cool, though. I mean, Walmart's like the biggest logistics company in the world. Were you in Arkansas? Is that where you were based, in Bentonville?
No, so I worked on the distribution logistics side of things, really more on I would say more internally on operations. But Walmart is a great training ground. I mean, everything is black and white. They have studies for everything. I mean, I remember going through some basic training and they'd figured out, just the efficiency of cooling a trailer if the pallets aren't touching the sides of the trailer, right? And so it was really interesting to kind of like get steeped in that information. And
that's
awesome. First time I learned, in the real world, like get uncomfortable, learn something new, try something different, was at Walmart. I was traveling. I can't remember why exactly, but my oldest sister works at 3M, and she was in Kentucky. And I was driving down to see her. I don't know why. I don't remember why. But there were a couple of distribution centers along the way, and they were different types. And I said to my boss at the time, I said, I haven't seen these. I'd like to go see them. Maybe we'll learn something different. And he was like, really? On your time off? Like, you want to go do that? I'm like, I'm interested. So
I'm here. I'm driving by, right? Why not? Good for you.
So scheduled meetings and stopped by and saw, I don't know, two, maybe 3 different facilities, and everybody was super gracious. They showed me how their docks ran and what their inbounding process looked like. And when I got back, my boss said, would you write me a report on what you found? And then he gave me a day or 2 of vacation back. I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. But Walmart was always, things were on the very straight and narrow there. And it was really an amazing place to learn. It was super challenging. I remember calling my dad at one point and talking to him like, I'm working crazy hours. And he said to me, oh, they'll let you work however many hours you need. He put the ownership back on me, right? Like,
right.
Okay, figure it out and get out of there.
Take control.
Yes.
Yeah, take control.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, it's I didn't get to complain and just keep complaining. It was like, well, you're still new. You're still figuring it out. And at some point it will get better and you won't be there for 20 hours a day, which is an exaggeration, but
of course. But what a place to learn. Yeah. And obviously you brought that into what you're doing today. So that kind of experience and that it's completely invaluable. And it goes back to meeting a professor that actually cared about you. And, I have some of those stories too. I can't remember their names, but yeah, some of those are really tough, challenging classes or people that you meet along the way that actually challenge you. Yeah. It's like, man, this is awesome. And not just do it because they want to kind of pick on you or bully you. They do it because they care about you. I mean, that's like real love, in my opinion. Yeah. That's what loving somebody means. Like, hey, I care about you and I'm gonna plow on you because I believe in you. You can do this.
No doubt.
Look at you now. You have all this experience from one of the greatest logistics supply chain companies on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And speaking of logistics, people don't realize how important that is. Like, it's sometimes an afterthought, like get the product built or get the product made, put it in a truck, and it's like, it's done. No. It's a lot of money to ship stuff throughout the United States. And if you can maximize and I call them revenue generating activities, like what can you do to make sure that you're making the most amount of bang for this dollar as you can possibly get? And logistics plays a huge role in that, a huge role, especially in agriculture. My gosh.
It really does. And, it feels like in general, there's two paths forward on logistics. There's the low cost, maybe low reliability, maybe not.
Yeah.
And there's the higher cost day in, day out guys that, they know what the feed mill operation's dealing with. They might be over capacity right now. So that truck driver is going to take that load home and sit on it and deliver it at 2 a.m. when they want it. They've got those close relationships. It took me a little while to figure that out in some of my roles, but I had to laugh when I made the change. And after ADM, one of the truck drivers said, "I just got you trained up."
Yeah, I know.
So, that was a really funny thought process in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, we do have kind of things figured out now. We know each other. This same truck driver and I had a disagreement on a load. And I said, come in and have a coffee. Let's talk about it. I'll tell you what I'm seeing. You tell me what you're seeing. And, we got to work together. And he approached it in the most respectful way that he could have for, somebody new coming in, not really knowing the system, but asking questions and trying to understand more. And we got done with the conversation, and he was just thankful that he'd been treated like a human, which is like, the bare minimum.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
If I were driving a truck, this is what I would want you to do with me. I want to understand the details. And
it's not hard.
Yeah. Some of those guys have, become family, or their families have become extended families. And, it's just treating people and meeting them where they're at, right? But treating people the way you'd want to be treated. Sounds ridiculous. But.
And such and like I said, so important in the moving and delivering of goods throughout the country. And, soybeans, for instance, it's a global commodity. It especially today in 2025, it is whatever happens in Brazil or China or Russia or Ukraine or wherever. And so all the ways to make that as efficient as possible to move from point A to point B is super important. So I love that's a huge one up for all the growers that are listening to this, for sure. It's shipping logistics is important. Speaking of growers, soybean farmers, let's talk about those folks. Are they happy today? Are they not happy today? Are they ever happy? And if they're not happy today, I'm asking a million questions. If they're not happy today, what do you think? What's the challenge? What's the top of the challenge board today?
Yeah, I would say most of the farmers are cautiously optimistic. It's kind of a mixed bag. We have some folks that are really, kind of up in arms over what's happening. And then we have some folks that have a lot of trust in the process. I think tariffs is something that's been interesting to me with my economics background and my trading background. Obviously, with soybeans, the biggest impact is that we have a very easy substitute in an international market with Brazil, for instance. When China sees tariffs, that's like the very first and most easy thing to switch overnight, right? And so even when we were talking about the Section 301 tariffs on, with the plan to hey, we want to build American ships and we want, these American ships running instead of Chinese ships, that takes time. Mm-hmm. But what that does is increase the cost of the bushel that's exported outside of the U.S. So it's interesting to have these conversations at the same time that we're talking about having a trade deficit, because our trade deficit through April, I was just reading this the other day. I might be a little behind on my inbox, but through the first quarter, we set a record. And part of that is practices that were implemented before, right? So I'm not saying since January, we've had all of these changes that have impacted all of this. What's changed, right? There's a bit of a fallacy around a trade deficit. I have a trade deficit with Hardee's. Hardee's is my jam. They buy nothing from me, and I want to eat there every day. So,
What is it? The Frisco burger? Tell me
number
what it is.
two.
What is it about
That's number
Hardee's?
2 for me.
That's number 2. Okay. I haven't eaten at Hardee's in probably 25 years.
Oh
So
my
they're
gosh.
not,
Yeah,
I can't remember. Are you in the Des Moines
I
area?
am.
So they must be in the Des Moines area. I got to find the next
Well,
Hardee's. But anyway,
you'll laugh at this, but I told my realtor years ago, I'm like, have to be within walking distance of a Hardee's. And I was laughing, but I'm near a Hardee's,
great.
the one on 22nd Street. Anyway.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So there's a Hardee's in Des Moines on 20. Yeah. Good for the Frisco burger. That used to be my thing too.
It's
But
the mushroom and Swiss.
that's the
my
one.
jam.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
That's the jam.
so I have a trade deficit with Hardee's, right?
Yes.
So the math is very simple when it comes to that. The US population, we have different wants and needs. We eat lots of high value ag imports like nuts and clementines that, some of them are produced in Florida, but off season, not all of them, right? And so we purchase a lot of high value, high cost goods, right? So California can only grow so many almonds, and it's hard to say that this trade deficit is a negative thing, because it generally means we're willing to purchase high value items, or we have the budget to purchase more items, maybe than somebody in China, for instance, right? And so there are other factors at play, but the trade deficit side of things is really interesting, because it's hard to say we're going to fix the trade deficit, but in the meantime, we're going to make our goods more costly to export. So we're talking about two different things that work together, right?
Right. And I like to tell people too, your Hardee's story is a great one. The United States is a fantastic customer. And if you're in business out there, you know this. What do you do? How do you treat your best customers? Really, how should you treat all your customers? But typically the ones that are spending a ton of money on you, what do? You bend over backwards for them. You go out and visit with them. You send your sales reps out there and play golf with them. You buy them steak dinners. You give them your swag. You do everything you can so they keep buying from you.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to that of the U.S., we are a fantastic customer. We're a good manufacturer. We're a good producer of products too, specifically in agriculture, but we're a way better customer. So that's a very interesting perspective on the trade deficit, because it's so true. The customer in us is a very, very good thing. Can we ever get to manufacturing like we once did? I don't know. I highly doubt that. But boy, we sure can buy, and we have good buying power.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, there are a large number of farmers who are, waiting to see what this looks like. I think generally they do feel like the U.S. has been taken for granted in certain ways. And I know as the USDA works on peeling things back, they're looking at, parity with other countries. There's been a real conversation around bilateral trade agreements, what those look like, and how we can move forward with those trade agreements. Some countries have come forward to say, hey, we're here to negotiate. Let's figure out something that works for both parties. I think that's always helpful. So it's hard to see it at the first blush and say, oh, I see a path forward. But there's sometimes beauty in the chaos too, right? Like, generally from the government relations side of things, I would say that there's no beauty in the chaos. But from trade, the trade world, it's all of these moving pieces, and I think we have an opportunity for one or two things to stick and make a difference. The one cautionary tale that I have is, in 2017, really, when we implemented this the first time around, we saw a drop in soybean exports, and the soybean world has never fully recovered from that. So because we have this direct substitute, not a complement, not a partial replacement, because we have this direct substitute out of Brazil, we are playing a very different game than a lot of other exports from the U.S. So it's just a consideration on, like, not every piece of agriculture is the same. And I don't say that to say, like, the sky is falling, the world is ending for the soybean world and no one else. That's not true either. It's just that it is one place where we will struggle long term. When Secretary Rollins was in Iowa, the farmers told her, and these are her words, but the farmers told her, we want trade, not aid. And, when we start talking about short-term aid, what we're also talking about is potentially long-term damage. And that's not something that the U.S. can continue to pay farmers for, because it's hard to quantify that impact, right? Brazilian farmers have had 19 years of profitability. They're pushing more and more deforestation. Of course, they don't like some of the rules and regulations and contracts that have been signed against deforestation. And, they've been quoted saying, like, we don't like having to abide by other people's rules. It's like, you can't just go out and chop down forests and plant soybeans. And I understand their side of the argument too, in that, other countries were allowed to do that 100 years ago, and now we can't. Well, in the U.S., in Iowa, we didn't cut down forests. We had prairie, right? And so we have a very different scenario happening here. And I just think, like, we produce some of the best soybeans. Obviously, I'm biased. But yeah, truly, even in the amino acid profile, our Midwestern soybeans are top notch. So, it's something that we're talking about too. And how do we, find those niche markets, specialty markets that can utilize that unique profile, and that comes from the soil, and not all soils are created equal. So,
well, and I think you hit on something too. Well, number one, Iowa has the best soybeans on planet Earth. Let's go ahead and say that. But number two, yeah, exactly. The tariffs, whatever side of the political aisle you were on, there are some unfair agreements. I shouldn't call them that. There's just some imbalances out there throughout the rest of the world that might not be tariffs. It might not be a tax, but it might be rules and regulations. Mm-hmm. Your Brazilian example is perfect. Chop down a bunch of rainforest and plant soybeans. And if we did that here in the U.S., we'd be fined and penalized, and, you'd probably be out of business. So it's not the same rules that we're all playing by, yet we all live in this global world and everybody buys from everybody else. Well, if all of a sudden U.S. soybeans are so far out of the realm of price, well, no one's going to buy them. And so we have to tighten up the rules to make it so this global world can work with one another. And if anything comes out of the tariffs, I hope that does fix and correct itself in a positive way. Yeah. And that's not being political at all. No. That's just farmers and agriculture and in general fairness. We need that. So I love that you're providing support and advocacy for that, because farmers need it, specifically in Iowa, but throughout the U.S.
It would have been like February 28th or 29th, 2 days into the job. I was at Commodity Classic, and Kansas farmers stood up talking to a USDA panel, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, but last year is catastrophic, and we need help sooner than later. And they heard that, a pin could drop. The whole room was about, like, emotional, because people have seen that in so many different ways. Like, we really are fortunate in Iowa, and how we're dealing with farming, what we're seeing, compares somewhat to what they're seeing in Kansas, but not. I mean, when they're talking about harvesting 400 acres of 2,000, and wheat prices haven't been great, and maybe the quality of their wheat wasn't awesome, and we're just thankful for everything we do have here.
Yeah, that's awesome. How much time do you spend time in Washington, D.C., or do people from your organization? I'm guessing that's
we do. Yeah. So I've been, I think, twice since February.
What's that like?
The folks that we meet with are generally the Iowa delegation, and those folks and those staffers across the board are awesome. They do great work. They are listening. I could have one meeting with a an Ernst staffer or a Grassley staffer, and then the next day it's like, hey, this came up, and what do you guys think about that? Like, they're constantly seeking information from trusted resources. I think the number one rule of law in the lobbying world is be honest and succinct. So, right. So,
yeah, please do
right.
those two things, right?
Well,
Yes.
so as you build that credibility, then you find more people will come to you and ask, and they might ask for both sides of the story. Like, hey, we're hearing this is impactful to farmers, but we're hearing not so much from this side. And what do you think? And so, I think the best communicators are the ones that can remove their personal biases, but still representing, the groups that they represent, show what the impact looks like. And so that happens at the state level, but it also happens at the national level. We've had a lot of letters this year, just since I joined. And I don't know that that's normal. But a lot of letters just communicating like, hey, if we're going to do this, let's consider this piece. And that could be related to biofuels policy. That could be related to the Make America Healthy Again commission report, and some of that thought process that's happening in the world today. So, farmers and farm groups are more engaged than ever, I think. The space where I think ag gets caught up is that generally it's easier to play defense than to play offense. And so I like to think of it in the reverse that way. I like to, rather than sitting back and waiting for something to happen, I like to address it head on and try to fix it proactively. We don't always have that opportunity because some of the legislation that we see comes out of nowhere, and it's just this, emotionally charged, thought process. In Iowa, we had a bill to ban margarine in schools. And I had a legislator tell me that it came from California. California's never banned margarine in schools, so that's not accurate. The bill also...
That's shocking that they haven't banned margarine in California. What is margarine? Does anybody even know what margarine is? That's the thing, like banning margarine in schools, does that actually drive healthy outcomes though? The answer is it doesn't. No, probably not.
Right?
Yeah, they should probably ban the Cheetos, hot fries, and Takis that they're eating. But yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah, no, you're right though. So it's like we just have to have this conversation around like what's the goal and purpose, right? If it is to drive healthy outcomes, and banning specific food ingredients for a specific subset of the child's day is not going to do it, right? Like this is a holistic conversation. This is a conversation about building a healthy nation, building a system that, spends $2 proactively and $1 reactively instead of the 2 reactively that we spend and 1 proactively today. So it's a whole system change, not a ban on margarine.
Yeah. And I sometimes throw my tinfoil hat on and I'm like, I think of, okay, yeah, maybe we are eating a credit card full of plastic a year, and vaccines are bad, and we should never take another pill that a doctor prescribes because nobody knows what's in them, and all the things that the major talking points out there today. Sauna every day for 20 minutes at 140 degrees because it's the best thing for you.
With an
I
ice
still
bath.
do that one.
Yeah,
follow with an ice bath. Yeah, all that. Never eat anything but grass-fed beef. It's hard to determine what's real and what's not, especially today. So I'm interested in your perspective of, and we'll close up here shortly because we've been going on. But what's the farmers' take on the Make America Healthy movement?
Yeah.
Is it 50-50? Are they all going, this is crazy and this is going to really hurt us? Or what's the thought?
I think the sentiment is generally they see more obesity. They see, more sedentary lifestyles, right? Not necessarily the farmers themselves, but when they go in to deliver their grain, they're sitting around the co-op and they see the people driving by and they're like, wow, my neighbors are not healthy. So I think there's some real concern over the direction that the U.S. has been heading. It's interesting to me to hear people say, well, the food pyramid, it's like the food pyramid hasn't been a thing for decades. It's something
that was popular in like the 80s.
Right. Yeah. And so it's like, the stuff that they're talking about doing now already exists. it's called My Plate, right? The thing is, consumers don't follow it, right? So I know that if I eat 3 bags of Doritos a day, I'm not going to feel great, but it tastes amazing, right? And so I really am a firm believer in everything in balance. I grew up in a space with older parents. My mom rendered her own lard. We ate butter only, no microwaves. I was not vaccinated. All of these things that you're talking about. Limited TV. Cell phones really weren't a thing, obviously. I didn't get one till it would have been Christmas my senior year. And it was a flip phone, right? But it was color. It was a big deal. But it's like, I have lived all of those experiences, but I would say I don't always choose the healthiest option. And so I think really what we need to be talking about is consumer choice, right? So we take dyes out of food, for instance. Do we have the science actually that backs it up, that says that this isn't healthy, this isn't safe? And the reason I even bring up food dyes, not because soybean farmers care or because farmers in general care, but because the next path forward is, now I feel the same way about GMOs, and GMOs are just terrible because organic is so much better. And I hear this time and again because I have some family in Maine and I travel some, and it's like, well, organic is just healthier. And that's not true either, right? And so as consumers, we consume some products that are organic in our household and some that are not. And it comes down to me, what's fresh, what's local, and my budget, right? And so I think really it becomes this whole conversation around what's factual and true versus, am I being a good mom because I'm not feeding my children all organic applesauce? I'm like, I'm sorry, this is processed apples, And the thing is, like, they're going to be very similar, right? The real question is, is it something that you purchased locally, or is it something that has an organic label slapped on it that isn't truly organic? I mean, there's more food products sold as organic than raised. When I was trading wheat, we had a company come to us and ask, hey, we'd love to make all of our wheat, durum wheat, macaroni wheat organic. And this is the quantity we would need. And they didn't love that the conversation was, well, this is X times the amount of the world production of organic durum wheat. And they're like, so how do we get there?
Yeah. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you're eating boxed mac and cheese, how much healthier is it to have organic durum wheat? And the thing, it's not a better for you product. And I say that as a kid who grew up with a farm background. We've got conventional, we've got organic, and it's very much a market differentiation opportunity for my folks. And it's not a moral, proposition where it's like, if I don't do this, then I'm a bad farmer. And we've seen more of that where it's like, well, if you do something different, you're wrong and morally corrupt. Yeah. It's like wild.
Yeah. Not only are you wrong, but we're going to protest. We're going to picket. We're going to call you names. We're going to lambast you in media. And it's like, what people don't realize with farmers is it's their business. You have to make money, in the end, you can't, no farmer is just doing this for fun. I mean, hopefully it's impactful and it's their land and they get that fulfillment, but ultimately you have to make money. And so,
you have to make money and you have to pass it down, right? What's the legacy look like?
Right.
And my dad's thought process has always been, I'm passing this on to your brothers, to you, to your sisters. What does this look like as my legacy? His goal has always been to give us each 80 acres, and he put us through college, and he's, just done everything to take care of us. So
good job, Dad. That's the way it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one of those things where it's just like farmers care. They're drinking the same water. They're eating the same food. And in some way, form or fashion, they've become the ones that are demonized through this. It's like, it's frustrating to me to see it happen, knowing that they have the same access to to, data and science to say, hey, these things are safe that we use. And we wouldn't use them if they weren't, because it impacts our families as well. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and that's the one thing, maybe we can kind of close with this, but for those listening that are in DC, I think one of the most important things that the MAHA movement does is it makes us talk about the problems on our own home soil. And man, is that ever the most important thing? Versus, I'm not saying what we're doing internationally today is bad. I'm not saying that. But we have real problems here, and they need to be corrected, and people need to be listened to. And especially, our Iowa folks, Joni and Chuck, listen to these folks. I know there's a lot going on in DC and around the world, and I know sometimes that seems to take precedent, but there's real problems here on the farm and with farmers and with consumers. And let's make sure we listen to those folks. And maybe the last thing, as the great prophet Willie Nelson once said, is everything in moderation, including moderation. So anyway, that's something to say. But yeah, well, gosh, I could go on forever, Katie. I really appreciate you doing this, and I think this is going to really resonate. This is a super interesting conversation. You're a natural podcast guest, by the way.
Oh, thank you. This is my first, which you knew, but I was like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you're a natural. So
Thank you.
As we close here, tell everybody a little bit on how to get in touch with you, the Iowa Soybean Association, if they have questions, if they have problems, if they want to just have somebody fight the battle for them.
Please reach out.
Go ahead.
We've got a great website, iasoybeans.com, or you can reach me directly at khall@iasoybeans. It's plural, soybeans.com. And feel free to message me anytime. I'd love to hear if you have issues. If there's things you think we should take a look at, love to do that. So always reachable.
Well, like I said, awesome. Thank you so much. I feel a part 2 coming, because I'm looking at kind of a list of, so we barely touched on a lot of things. There's probably a lot more. So I'll probably reach out to you for a part 2, maybe in the fall or something. But like I said, appreciate you. Grateful for you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Katie Hall.
Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the Germinate Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others in the industry. And join me next time as we continue to explore the innovations and strategies shaping the future of agriculture and business. Until then, keep growing, keep innovating, and keep germinating your success.